I will give a very short intro, and then I'll let GodlessLiz tell you a little bit about herself. Long story short, and this is where I embarrass you a little bit here, Liz.
Okay.
I myself, infidel, met Liz when I first started on Twitter, like very early in my quote unquote Twitter career. And that's only about a year and change, year and a half. But that being said, when I first met her, actually, and her husband, they were so friendly, welcoming, and it was really kind of for me a huge part of the beginning of feeling like, wow, there's a community here for me. And here, this is the part that I know will get you, but it shouldn't. And this Godless Liz person, whoever this is, has like a pretty big account, and people look up to them, and they're really good. They know what they're doing, and they're being my friend, and accepting to me and liking my stuff. And I know that that's cyclical, and I know that happens for so many people. But I want to point it out because that's how I viewed that, and I know that sometimes now people view me when they're first starting out, or they haven't, dipped their toes into the water. They go, "Oh, this guy's like paying attention to me, and he's got so many followers." And we're all just people. So like a huge part of what Zaylen and that I jumped on board myself wanted to do with this OK Atheist was create a space where we're open, where we can talk about these things, where we have a community of like minds, people who understand us, and it's just really fitting for me. And I feel somewhat honored to be able to introduce Godless Liz the way she so cordially and wonderfully introduced me to a lot of people who I now consider my community. So, with that being said, everybody, this is Godless Liz. And Liz, if you could just say hi and then maybe tell us a little bit about what changed Liz into Godless Liz.
Sup, everyone. Thank you, by the way, Dale, for that really sweet intro. It warmed my heart. I completely agree with you about how it's important for us to have a space because I think, generally speaking, most of us in the towns that we live in the cities that we live in, whether it's work or at home with family or, wherever, we're probably not surrounded by people that we can just be our authentic selves around when it comes to anything related to religion or you know most of us feel like we are constantly tiptoeing around religious people and feeling like we have to constantly hide what we really think and feel about the rituals, the beliefs, you name it. And we just keep our mouths shut, to keep the peace. When we don't want to rock the boat, we don't want to piss off our family members, we don't want to have to there's a lot of keeping our mouths shut, even in situations where we probably should speak up. But we have been trained, really, even for people who grew up mostly not religious, like even if they were raised in atheist homes and stuff, like a lot of us just feel like we don't have a space where we can actually voice our concerns or voice what we really think about these institutions and so forth. And uh, I think so that safe space is really important. So thank you for inviting me, by the way. I don't know if I already said that,
Yeah, no,
but
no, of course, and it really is like it's to me, it's there's so much of that. Like it's about community. It's about having a place where we don't feel odd. Um, Do you, I guess when you here's a question for you. When you first came to, and I'll say Twitter, but where is that where you first labeled yourself, Godless Liz, or
yes,
no?
actually, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And what I guess my question, what made you do that coming to Twitter, the
Well,
handle thing? Yeah.
as you know, I had a YouTube channel, The Naked Advice with Liz
Oh,
Lapointe,
and by the way,
and
I want to add in there while you're saying that I'm going to this conversation. So if anybody wants to, if you click at the bottom, there's that little bubble to this conversation out in public. I will add a couple links of Liz. So the stuff she's mentioning now, you'll if you want to see now or after the spaces, it will be there.
thank you. Yeah, so I had a YouTube channel, The Naked Advice, because at the time I wanted to give information and dispel myths about sexuality and relationships and dating. And I had studied the social sciences in college and at one point wanted to be a forensic psychologist. So my focus was on psychology and criminology and mental illnesses and personality disorders, etc. And I didn't end up finishing my degree, but that was the focus. And sexuality too, obviously, I studied. And so I noticed that a lot of the misinformation out there about human sexuality and everything, I wanted to do these videos to discuss these things, and not even necessarily as an expert. Like, I never called myself an expert. I wasn't there to be like, to pretend that I, am some clinician and or a professional sexologist. It was more like I wanted a space to also have conversations about sexuality, because a lot like religion, it's a thing that people tend to tiptoe around and not feel comfortable talking about and blah, blah, blah. Especially if you were raised in, authoritarian conservative homes and so forth. And so that's what the YouTube channel, The Naked Advice, and it was a blog too, where people wrote in and asked me questions and asked for my advice. And that's what the channel was about, where I would answer people's letters and give advice and so forth. And when I didn't have the answer myself, I often deferred to professionals. And so I had a psychotherapist that I would connect with to help me with letters and so forth. And it was after doing that for a couple of years, I realized that a lot of the issues were caused by religion and religion disinformation and lies about sexuality and masturbation and so forth. And I
So,
thought,
I want to be clear that kind of when you restarted this, the religion wasn't really at the forefront at all.
right,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It wasn't. I got a lot of letters from people who said things like, "Oh, I was a virgin on my wedding night, and now my wife and I are having these issues," and blah blah blah. And
Good thing they didn't have to stone her to death.
yeah, yeah. If she wasn't the virgin,
Yeah, if she wasn't a virgin on the
yeah,
wedding
yeah.
night, you have to take her to a father's doorstep and stone her to death so her dad can watch what a horrible job he did at raising a daughter who was not a virgin.
Right.
That's where you get your morals from, right?
Right. Yeah, of course. So yeah, and that led me to realize, I think I'm done just talking about sexuality and dispelling that misinformation. And I want to focus on the cause a little more, because I finally realized I have a lot to say about this topic. And other than my husband, I didn't know any out atheists. And so I was like, I have a lot to say, and I need to get it out into the world somehow. And so I took to Twitter and just decided to call myself Godless Liz. And because I wanted it to be clear that even just looking at my name, where I stand, like,
That's why I left my thing as infidel, and I think you know because you were one of the few who followed me at first. And for anybody who doesn't know, I don't hide who I am. My name's Dale Goldstein, and I came to Twitter as Dale Goldstein. And one day the infidel thing popped up in a conversation, and it stuck, and it went, you know what? I want people to know this is who I am. This is what I'm about. If you don't like it, you get to know right off the bat.
right.
Like
Yeah,
you're
I
saying,
love
like
your.
no hiding it. Yeah.
Speaking of, I've been meaning to ask you. So, did you come up with infidel, or was that something that somebody
Uh,
else?
because I mentioned it, I'll give a quick 30-second story. So I was having a conversation back and forth. Obviously there was some heated conversation going on, as usually happens with me, and someone who was angry at me, like they were literally mad, and they, in anger, said, "You're nothing but a worthless infidel." And I typed back with an asterisk, infidel. Like I was just being me, being silly.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
somebody else commented and they're like, "That's fucking awesome. You should change your name to that." And then people started chiming in, and I don't know the numbers, but like about 10 people were like, "You should make that your name." So I went, you know what? I'm gonna do it just to be funny. Like I've never had a handle like that on anything before. So I changed it. And as soon as I changed it, everybody was like, "Oh, I love it, I love it." And the more I thought about it, like we just said, I went, that is that describes me. Like it completely does. Like I want to be considered an infidel. I mean, technically not, but I want to be considered an infidel, apostate, even though I'm not. I want to be considered an enemy of my enemy. Christopher Hitchens once said this, and somebody's like, "Well, I hope that we're not enemies." And Hitchens, he's like, "You're not my enemy," and Hitchens goes, "You're mine. You clearly don't recognize an enemy when you see one." And it wasn't like a fight. He was saying to the guy, like, we completely disagree. We're fighting for opposite things. It's okay to say we're enemies when it comes to this, And that's how I feel. I am the enemy of anyone. I'm sorry. I am the enemy of any ideas that are attached to those religions. So that's
Right. I
it.
know
It's
what you're
stuck. Yeah.
saying. Yeah. I love that you brought up Christopher Hitchens actually, because he was part of the inspiration for part of the reason why I was like, I'm done not expressing these thoughts. I've got to get them out to the world. And I think I came across around that same time, I came across one of his quotes, and don't quote me on quoting him, but it was something along the lines of, never stay quiet when you see injustice or something. And then he says, because the grave will supply plenty of time for
Plenty of
silence.
time. Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good one.
And that was so profound and deep to me that I went, oh my God, you only have one life. I only have my voice right now. I'm not going to have it when I'm dead. I need to speak now.
Or forever hold your peace. And
Right.
another quick line that's also Hitchens that I say that also relates to what you just said, is there can be no progress without head-on confrontation. And it's the same thing, like saying, like, listen, we have to confront this stuff, or we're gonna just be standing still. I'm with
Right.
you. It's be who you are, be upfront, and because we speak like this of the man, that's why many people call him our God. But he's just a human with flaws like the rest of us, just a
Right.
few
He
less than
just
some.
happened to say, yeah, exactly. He just happened to say some really smart things that we agree with, or, profoundly affected us. And,
Yeah, and
that's
that
great.
and that and that motherfucker was eloquent as fuck.
Yeah, he was. He was. So, yeah. So, where were we?
Well, you were
So,
you
yeah.
were talking about your YouTube channel,
Well,
and I
yeah.
actually
And
just to let
then,
anyone know I did share that, so that will be out in the conversation, and I'm also going to share Liz Patreon. But I would also like us to tell you too, because I'm mentioning the Patreon thing with your writing that you're doing now. Like, we'll get to that, but your writing that you're doing now, because I'm going to share that out there to tell people about that. Tell people a little about that as well.
about my Patreon.
No, well, about what they get with that, and then also about your writing that you're doing now, because I'm going to share that link out there.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Well, there's three main tiers. Um, One where, see, I'm terrible at talking about myself.
Well, no, they can
My
also look at
husband is
it too.
always like,
Yeah, no, they can share. Listen, I'm with you. Like, who likes advertising themselves in that way? But I'll advertise you in that way because I'm a fan as well as a friend. But I just shared Liz's Only Sky Media out there, which you can take a look at, and then I will share her Patreon too. So that describes everything. If you just want to take a look at that.
yeah, yeah. It's just, I started the Patreon because I could say this real quick. I started it because I wanted to like write and blog about more personal stuff that I wouldn't necessarily share with just anyone. And I figured anybody who was interested in reading that stuff, there it is in a place that, isn't going to deal with trolls and stuff. So that's where that comes from.
So yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
I was actually just trying to get that link to share it as you were talking about it.
Oh, gotcha.
Um,
Okay.
so then I guess, and another question though, because I did share the about your current, I would say, endeavor, but Only Sky. Do you want to tell us what that's about?
Yeah, they're a great website. Anything related to secular, it's from anything that's related to current events and opinion pieces, and you name it, related from a secular point of view.
Okay,
So
and just to let everybody know, I'm throwing those in the nest as well at the top of the spaces, so you could take a look at those while we're talking, if you'd
yeah,
like.
they're fantastic. You can read about
And
anything.
yeah, what kind of topics do you personally write on? Is it in general? Is it all similar or?
Yeah, my latest one is about the time a woman tried to lure me into a cult, and so basically I write about life experiences that I think there might be something to glean from.
And you said, because you mentioned that your husband is also a non-believer,
Mhm.
a theist. So how about your life growing up? Did you come to be quote unquote godless Liz over time as an adult, or when you were younger? How were you raised when it comes to religion?
My parents are both Christian. My mother, Eastern Orthodox. My father, Lutheran. So my dad's side of the
Those will never
family,
work.
yeah, yeah. My dad's my dad's side of the family, Lutheran. So there's that aspect, and then my mother, Eastern Orthodox, and it's very hard to describe what it was like, because when I read what other people's experiences with religion were like growing up, it tends to be either an instance where they were sheltered and had very authoritarian parents, very conservative homes. And mine was a bizarre mix of not sheltered at all. I had a very secular education. I had freedoms. I was allowed to watch TV and listen to pop albums. And, I wasn't raised at all in any kind of sheltered way, but there was also a very conservative tone in my home. It's really hard to
Yeah,
explain,
yeah.
but
It wasn't necessarily seeming like it was direct from the religion, but that religious overtone, as
yeah.
far as morals and values, or
Right. And my mom is very deeply religious and very, very um, devout. And I think growing up, trying to have conversations with her when my critical thinking skills were popping up and things weren't making sense to me, and I was trying to make sense out of it, and her answers not satisfying me and not making sense, just, you know, I know it's cliche, the whole cliche, the atheist thing with comparing God to Santa Claus, but that's literally the best example I can give, because I was about 8 years old when I figured out Santa Claus was a lie. And it was through the same process, just critical thinking skills. I recognized my older brother's handwriting on the gifts from Santa and went, well, that makes no sense.
why is
And
Santa making my brother sign these?
right, exactly. And that got the ball rolling. The next thing I knew, I was also going, well, wait, how does he get into our house when we don't have a chimney? We don't have a fireplace. Just all these other questions. And I just figured it out on my own. Nobody had to tell me there's no Santa. I didn't go and ask my mom, hey, is there Santa? I just figured it out. And it was a very similar pattern. I believed in a God, in the Christian God my mom taught me as a small child, and prayed sometimes before bed, and even went to a Christian camp a couple times, but not the kind that you saw in Jesus camp. not what like one of those types. Had those experiences.
So it was a mixture. It was a combination. It sounds
It was
like.
a very much a combination. And so it was around, 14, 15 years old that I started to question religion in general, where I started thinking about it. I was like I said, it's very similar to the process with figuring out Santa Claus wasn't. So I was like, this doesn't make sense, and this doesn't make sense, and the more I thought about it, the more I was like, something's not kosher here. No pun
Yeah.
intended, right?
Although Jesus could fit down the chimney. It's a little more logistical. I mean, still not possible, but yeah. And actually, while you're saying that, like, I want to hear a little more about that too. But so when obviously that's the way you're raised. My question now, and I got a little personal skin in this game, would be: does your mother or your family know who you are in this way, and what you do with these things? And if that's the case, how has that affected or the relationship, or how have you been able to work around it?
Never talk about religion with my family.
Okay,
Never.
well then,
It's just never a
yeah, that's the answer.
conversation. Nothing ever happens that it needs to be brought up. It's just, I think I
So
learned
so
at a,
so they literally wouldn't know you under this pseudonym, correct?
unless they happened upon it, or
Well,
someone
they would
sent
recognize you. I get
sent it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully your family would recognize you if they saw you. But yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Separate, yeah,
Yeah.
separate
Because
entities.
I learned at a very young age there's no reasoning. You cannot have a rational discussion with people who believe in inherently irrational things. It's impossible. And I was like 9 and 10 trying to have a debate with my mother because she tried to claim that that Satan put the dinosaur bones in the earth to test us or something ridiculous like that.
Satan put that, like, God didn't plant them, Satan did that.
Yeah, and it was just, I was 9 and I knew that was ridiculous. Like, it just, you can't, when people are very married to their beliefs, whether it's for emotional reasons, it's not always about intellect. There are plenty of
Oh, it's not always?
yeah, there are incredibly intelligent people who are devout, and I think uh, there's an emotional attachment. There's the need for conformity. It's the community you get when you conform, et cetera, et cetera. There's all sorts of reasons why. But anyway, the point is, I was saying that you cannot have a reasonable, rational discussion about completely inherently irrational things. It's just, you know.
Yeah,
And so,
that's difficult, that's one of the things why when we do things like this, and I talk about you doing your YouTube channel, which by the way I've enjoyed some of those videos, I really have, and in the past and over the last couple days, and doing that and the writings you do and stuff, it really is a shame that we can't have those conversations, but that's why it's good that when you do that stuff, it's optional. I don't want to, and I feel this way about, when I talk about these things, I don't want to force it down anyone's throat. I do want people to listen. I do think it's important to have these talks. But in the same sense, if I'm saying, you must listen to me, you have to do what I say, I'm just as bad as they are doing that with the religion.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
so I do like that you at least have, I mean, I haven't been able in my personal life to have that ability to back off of family. I don't just mean back off, but I mean to not even, well, I don't even mean the term back off like that, but to not speak about my thoughts on those things.
Oh,
Um,
interesting. Well,
I,
how is
yeah,
it usually received?
well, it depends on who they are.
Mm.
My mother and I no longer can really communicate at all because of that. And it's been horrible. But I
Mhm.
have a cousin, and this is like, I always tell this one because it makes it kind of seem funny, who is a Hasidic Jew, like literally lives in a kibbutz and does all of the things, like doesn't have electricity on Friday, Saturday, and blah, 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 blah.
Oh, wow.
Curls,
Yeah.
curls on the side of his head. He will sit there and have a conversation with me and think about the things I say and say, wow, that's interesting. I never thought of it like that. Like, as far as open to the atheism talk,
Uh-huh.
whereas my mother, who was Jewish growing up, or when I was growing up, and then is now an evangelical Christian, can't even say Merry Christmas to me because she's afraid that I'll go, there is no Jesus. So
Oh,
it's like a
wow.
really,
Interesting.
yeah, different dynamics with different people.
Mhm.
But the majority I've learned, because I personally am so vocal, and again, this can work for an individual however they choose, but because I am so vocal, I feel like I it's better for me not to be around people who I can't be open about it with.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can't be close to people when there are walls there between you. Like when there are particular topics you cannot broach because
Yeah, it's
when
walking
you
on eggshells, right?
right, or just, even if you could technically talk about them, but it's just going to turn into a fight. You're like, ah, I don't have the energy. What's the point?
Yeah,
And
and
that is partly,
no, you go.
I was going to say, and that's partly what drove me to Twitter to create the profile because I was like, I need to find my people. I need to find like-minded people who get it, who
Yeah,
already
and
get
again,
it.
that's why we like having these, and that's why I like just talking like this, in general. Um, Even if it's not for people to like, you do the YouTube and you write for these outlets, and you're vocal and you have yourself out there, and I've been doing some podcast stuff here and there, and I try to do this, and everybody has different levels of what they have, what they want, what they need from it. But for me, it's just that, like you said, like you can't talk to your mother or your parents about this. I cannot talk to my mother about this stuff. And I think the vast majority of us, not all, not even close, but the majority, have some point in our lives where we've lost friends or family, or even if it's just the people who we were, went to church with, or mosque with, or whatever. I just think that these, not just the spaces, these everything, these spaces, these YouTube things we're talking about, every form of social media or outreach, it gives us a little something that we've either lost or never really had. It is. It's just good to feel, good to feel not judged. And I don't mean judge because I'm somebody who says like we should all judge each other. I think it's weird that people don't like judging each other because that's how we differentiate. Yeah, I don't judge you. Yeah, like to me, I know this talk could get deep, but when people say, "Oh, don't judge me," I go, "You mean don't prejudge you without proper information, right? Because if you don't want me to judge you, then all right, you're my best friend, and you don't judge me. I'm your best friend. Now let's just go live our lives." Like you can't just be best friends with everybody. You can't date everybody. Like you have to judge each other. It's really a prejudge thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and judge doesn't always mean bad. It doesn't
Correct.
necessarily right, and it's human nature. We can't not. That's like impossible to avoid.
We have to judge. It's one of the things that separates us from some of the other animals that we're able to use that ability to judge each other and make decisions based on the information we've received, rather than just your pee smells bad, so I'm going to bite you.
Right.
By the way, I don't want anybody to get offended. I don't care what your urine smells like. It literally could be asparagus urine, and I still wouldn't bite you.
Man, life would be simple if it was like that. I want to ask you a question real quick.
Yay. I mean, no, I'm the host. I only ask questions. I'm afraid. Yeah, shoot.
It's actually not about religion, though. Is that okay?
Believe it or not, once in a while I do speak about things unrelated to religion.
Okay,
yes.
Good. What actor would you want to play you in a movie about your life?
Yeah, this is a tough one because my first thought was, because this is so funny, like what was like, okay, they should look like me, and then the second thought was, everybody's gonna start laughing and get Vin Diesel, but then I think I want somebody who can pull off the acting job, and you got to have some talent to act that level fucked up. So the answer is I'm not sure, but I will think about it. And we have Kristen, who is jumping in now. And Kristen, feel free to say hello. And then David, when you are able to speak, let me know again. But for right now, it will be Kristen, and then Ring, and then Brendo. Transalot of Earth.
Hi, Liz and Dale.
Hi, Kristen.
Hey, how are you guys? I'm so glad that that you're here today. Really, my question for you, Liz, is my experience is very similar to you. And what really got me is obviously my name is Kristen. So dealing with that origin there of people would say Christian or and that sort of thing. And as you're saying, the morality part of it and being brought up in that regard. I didn't have a brother to recognize that handwriting and no, that's not Santa, that's my brother. But I definitely knew, especially when we moved and there was no chimney. And I think I was about 5 and it was on me to not let other people know. And so I was brought up Lutheran. And as we went along, I was the one that was knowing, okay, this is a bunch of, but not saying. And so I am still the one who knows. And, I do say, obviously. And I don't, I have my name out there, which in a lot of ways I probably, especially now with what's going on with Twitter, I wish I hadn't, but I wanted to talk to you about that because this weekend I have family getting together, and some are decent Americans are the same, and some are. I struggle with my mother. Let's just go with that. My mother's a born again Christian. My mother's a born again Christian. So I'm headed into the born again Christian of my mother's bosom, And
Yikes.
so,
Yeah.
so we'll just put it at that. Okay. We'll put it there.
Another good thing, because I do want to hear, Liz comment on this too. But a good thing about you bringing that up is with the holidays, coming up now, like we just passed Thanksgiving in America, and we have all these other major holidays coming up. A lot of people will be in positions where they're around, like you just said, around family who they only are around, when they have to be in these situations, or it's
Yes.
part of the deal. And
Yes.
what do you do? Do you hide who you are? Are
Yeah.
you open about it? Oh, yeah, I feel for everyone.
And just one little point there as well. My mother just learned that the reason that we went with the abortion decision is because she didn't realize that the Supreme Court, that they're Catholic. I just had to educate her about that part. And the look on her face, I was like, because according to my mother, Catholics aren't going to heaven. So I'll just leave it at that and let you
Wow.
guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for
Thanks,
coming
guys.
and speaking, and appreciate it.
Hmm.
Liz, any thoughts on that?
Thanks, Liz.
Yeah. I have a question. Do you find yourself nervous about being in a situation where do you feel like you need to go along with things like prayer and so forth?
Oh, no, not at all. I
Oh,
don't have to do any of that whatsoever. And if you have a look at my bio, like there's no concern as far as like professionally, I'm good to go. And I'm actually a member of my UU congregation here where I am, and that's fine.
I'm sorry, what's UU for
I
everybody?
was going to ask too.
Unitarian Universalism.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a member here, and so as far as my community where I am, we're good. It's just a matter of going to my mother's with our family, and unfortunately, this is the first Christmas we've had, and fingers crossed, everybody, that there's no death in the family because of COVID and all this. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, guys. I should have written stuff down before I before I got to you. I was so glad because with Twitter, I'm hardly on it now. I'm just like and it asked me to do something, and I really was like and then I saw it was you guys, and I'm like, yep, I'm talking to you.
I love your accent. Where are you?
My son is Australian, and my family is Australian as well. So that's where you're catching that. But I haven't been there since COVID. So
Oh, yeah, it's
I,
cute.
I
I love it.
yeah,
a couple months ago, I had my first Tim Tams.
your first one. Oh
Tim Tams, do you know what
yes,
those are?
do you like them? Yeah, Tim Tam. Yeah,
Oh yeah, those. I'm not
do
even
you
a
like them?
sweets person, but I'm not even a sweets person. But those things were ridiculous, and I did. If you know what a Tim Tam Slam is,
Yeah. Oh, you did not.
wait. So it gets even better. I'm going to explain this, and I actually have I shared a video when it happened, but I'll
Oh,
see if I can find it. But so you bite off two corners, opposite corners of the Tim Tam. I'm an expert now, right?
yeah, sure you are.
Yeah. So
I
and
love this.
you dip it in hot coffee, and you sip the coffee through it, and then you eat the whole Tim Tam, and it's like chocolate and different flavors, and it melts on your tongue. It's like the most ridiculous thing. But the best part about it is a friend from Australia sent me like a gift package, which was wonderful of her.
Yep.
But I got the
Yes.
package, opened it, had all these things, and Australian flavored things.
Yes.
No kangaroo. I was a little upset about the lack of kangaroo, but
You'll
but but
get
I
there. You'll get
but
there.
so I open this thing. I'm eating these things, and I go to look up because she says, look up what a Tim Tam Slam is, so you can do it. So I go to look it up, and lo and behold, I find Neil fucking deGrasse Tyson doing a Tim Tam Slam and
Are you?
explaining it scientifically.
Oh hell
And
yeah!
and
Okay,
so
I'll have to look at
I'll
that. I'll be
find
looking
that
at that.
I'll
Yeah.
find that in a minute and share it in this thread.
Cool. All right.
But I
Yeah.
did it before I saw him do it, and I was like, it was so wonderful that he had the same thoughts, and it just makes
Yes.
you, it makes you go to think like different minds, right? Like I'm not comparing mine to Neil's,
Absolutely.
but
That's so
just the same
cool.
type of thought, as you're
Oh
feeling
man.
it and describing what you feel
Yes.
and why. Yeah, it's pretty
That's
cool.
great. Oh, I'm with you. Okay. Cool.
You guys.
Yep. Okay. All right. Sorry. So there we
Yeah,
are.
no, we'll
Okay.
dedicate the rest of the spaces to non-candy related
No,
things.
yeah. You guys need to tell me what a Tim Tam is.
It's a chocolate biscuit. It's a cookie, a chocolate biscuit.
Yum.
Yeah, it's like a cookie. It's
Liz.
It's
Yeah.
Liz.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying. There's no more words coming, but like Liz.
Oh.
Yo, it's so good. I mean, it really is insane. And I'm not,
It's
again,
really good.
I was like, I'm not a chocolate person, but
Right,
those
but
things.
you would be for that. Yeah.
And wait, listen. So then 2 days later, the last thing I have to say, because I've tried these things like the original Tim Tams, and 2 days later, I get 4 or 5 packages of like special edition Tim Tams, like one with mint, one with raspberry.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, wonderful, friend.
Liz, I'm sorry. I threw him on a tangent with
Tim Tam tangent. Yeah,
I'm
but
sorry,
so
Liz.
listen. No, we're all good. So yeah, let's
Oh,
go
yeah,
back
we're
to
all
talking
good.
about the family thing, because it is important. If you don't have
But
Tim
yeah,
Tams
see,
and
and that's
chocolate,
part of it too. The first that I ever went to Australia, I was a Rotary exchange student when I was 16. And so that really got me because they're a secular country. I mean, that's the first time I went. And on a Sunday morning, we didn't go to church. So yeah, obviously my formative years and that was back in the day. People hadn't met in America, and we did not have this technology. Hello, this was 1988.
Yeah, wow.
so is that why you called it Rotary?
Yes.
My younger sister lives in Sydney.
Oh, that's great. I have family in my family's in Brisbane and points north and all over.
Listen, you know what? We're going to get around to it in a minute, but one of the people with their hand raised has some inside scoop on Australia. So I'm just letting you know we'll probably get back to this.
I didn't mean to devolve this conversation. Really is, but yes,
you're correct. Let's forget about the Australia stuff and hop along to the next subject.
Yes.
But
yeah, to go from we're a Christian country, and we're all over that, as we can see with our politics here, and other countries are like, what with you guys?
Oh, I know.
In a lot of regard, all over the place now. If you could please, just expound on your experience, I guess.
Yeah, just a little more of the experience of Kristen was saying as far as getting together with family when you have to curb.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
My family is one of those families that we pretty much have the same types of conversations you would with the grocery store clerk. You know what I mean?
See, I think okay, hang on. I think with all of my not having my thoughts clear, I'm sorry. And so it is also my mom. It's my mom's birthday, so I'm kind of scattered as well with loss, suffering loss at Christmas time or the holidays time. As a female, this obviously impacted you as a female because, like Dale said, if you're not a virgin when you're married, you're getting stoned. You're not stoned in the good way. Yeah. So there you are with that. There I was, not knowing. I'm like working on being the matriarch of our family, and like, okay. And this is back in the day, and honey, I'm sorry. I'm all over the place with you guys. I apologize to whomever is listening in. I'm all over the place here.
Yeah, you're good. But actually, I'll hop to the next person if you're okay with that, so I can get everybody in.
Well, real quick though, I'm sorry, Kristen. I'm like, I don't know what I can tell you that because I'm not sure.
I guess just the morality part of it, where as a girl, as the female that's saying, no, I'm not believing in this bow down. See, because I went from being Lutheran up to 8th grade, and then the Lutheran school was too far away. I had to switch over to Catholic. Then I had to put on a Catholic schoolgirl uniform.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
See where I am with all that?
Mm-hmm. That was so difficult for me not to hit the love button, but I decided to.
Well, then you've got the nuns measuring the skirt length and smacking you on your hands and all of that. And I'm like, what? And then when I say to my mother yesterday, you do realize it's because the judges on the Supreme Court are Catholic, and the shocked look on her face. And I'm like, hello?
Yeah, unfortunately, so many people come at it from different points of view that it, like what you saying that to your mother, it probably just didn't even register, because whether it's intentional or not, something in a believer is trying to keep out that I'm like them. Do you know what I mean? Like, of course you don't want to associate with something that comes off with negative vibes like that. Like, it really
Thanks, guys. Obviously, that was me just being like flat out at you. And
no, you're good.
Thank you.
Sometimes you need to get it out. That's why we're here.
Thanks, guys.
You want to try saying hello now? Okay, we will try one more time. I believe Ring, you're next if you're there, and then Brando will be next. Yeah.
I still stayed as speaker to let you know that I totally forgot what I was going to ask, and I'm sorry.
Well, at least you were able to get in. And now David's got their hand raised again. So, David, would you like to try again? Okay. Brando, your turn.
All right, I was just going to ask something easy to get this conversation moving. GodlessLiz, is your husband also godless?
Yeah, he is. I don't want to
Wait a
speak for
minute.
him
Wait a minute. You have to describe that hesitation. No, but that much
because I
you
don't
can.
want to. Here's why: because I don't want to speak for him. But I will say that he feels very strongly and agrees with me for the most part. But he, I think, probably leans more toward agnostic atheist, where
That's still atheist.
yeah, where
Close
he
enough.
said, where he leans more toward, I don't believe, but I don't know.
That being said, the Harris Sultan, how you doing?
Good. First of all, congratulations on trying your 10 pounds. You've got your next challenge. Your next challenge is to try Vegemite. Now,
Nah,
I guarantee you, it's gonna go wrong, and you're gonna hate it. But if you have to sit next to someone who knows what he's doing, how to prepare it, then you're never gonna,
yeah,
never gonna go back.
yeah.
You're
But
gonna love it.
before we go any further, I just want to tell you, I have already had my first Vegemite experience. And you are 100% correct that I didn't know what I was doing, and I fucking just went straight in, and it was one of the worst experiences of my life. And I don't know if I'm forever jaded toward it or not, because then afterward they had sent me like some like Cheez-It type snacks, but they were like Cheez-Its with a little bit of Vegemite, and they weren't bad at all. But I was tasting the Vegemite that I had tasted so thoroughly before, and going, ugh, I don't know if I can do it. Like. So I get that I did it improperly, and I need a little bit of time to reset, and then I'll try again. But you're correct; you nailed it.
Yeah, everyone it's a typical amateur's mistake. Everyone makes that mistake, but yeah, the second time around when you know what you're doing, then yeah, you love it. Yeah, you sure. Anyway, I don't know if
We
it's
go
just
big in the
me.
States. We go big in that. We're used to like burgers that are made for 12 people
Yeah,
to
no,
eat
so
by
that's not
ourselves.
the
Yeah,
way to eat.
I
Yeah,
know.
that's not the way to eat. You have to you have to put a very thin film of Vegemite just on top of your, toasted
Very
toast.
thin firmament on top of your toast.
Yeah, big firmament. That's right. That's better. All right. I find this I find this question very interesting. That despite of us seeing surveys after surveys, and I'm interested in hearing your thoughts and thoughts of our fellow Western atheists, because like we're so busy with our Muslim Islam kind of special, our our worldview kind of gets very myopic sometimes. We see these surveys, we see these studies after studies, and we see everyone is becoming non-religious, everyone's becoming atheists. Yet they're not interested in this, in this discourse, like the kind of discourse that we enjoyed in the 2000s, like in the so-called the new atheist movement. Everyone like you. These guys were rock stars, but nobody watches Sam Harris. Nobody listens to Sam Harris or Dawkins or any of these people anymore. But people are more interested in this red pill, transgender pronoun issues more than they were. What do you think the reason for that is? Like, even though it's not like that atheism itself is dead, because every whether it's a census or it's a study or a poll, we see atheism rising. Yet people are not interested in atheism itself. What do you think?
I feel terrible, but I only got probably 3/4 of what you were saying. So give me just one quick sentence of
Yeah,
like what your question was.
I'll sum it up because yeah, Harris. Actually, I was hearing you a little off as well. But I'll just sum it up quickly, Liz. And it was basically saying that we're seeing in droves the majority people shifting toward atheism. However, we're not seeing a lot of more of the conversation that atheism leads to, which I would call in a lot of cases either anti-theism or secularism. secular humanism, really, like the movements of people trying to push for things, like we're seeing in Iran right now, just because it's kind of come out in a way. But
Uh-huh.
why do you think we see the numbers going up, but not really the vocality of it going up? Does that make sense? If vocality is a word.
Oh, interesting. I would say it's because most of us, when we first make our realization that we don't believe anymore, whether or not that's atheist or just non-religious or and whatever we're labeling ourselves, I think the first stages we tend to be quiet about it. We're still tiptoeing around all the religious people we know, and we're just privately dealing with it. When we first deconstruct and we're first making all this stuff is dawning on us, I think it usually takes some time before we get to the point where we're like, no, I'm done being quiet about it. So that's my guess, is that we're seeing more and more people walking away from the religion and/or realizing they don't, that they question all the claims, and they're just privately.
Yeah, we're not seeing it in real time because the leaving the religion happens. I mean, that's a good point. Happens for most people before questioning the religion publicly. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was atheist for at least 20 years before I created GodlessLiz.
I was atheist for quite a while before I called myself atheist. I mean,
Right.
I know a lot of people try to stick to the agnostic label, even though I personally have an issue with that. But I think they're two separate questions. but I don't mind calling myself agnostic atheist if people need the term. However, for me, the reason I use the word atheist, and this is just me, I don't know, a lot of people don't feel this way, but it's because of the stigma behind the word, not because I think we need a word. Like, we could talk about, you hear people, Dawkins say, like, you don't see a leprechaunistes, you know what I mean?
Right,
Like, it's not
exactly.
a thing.
Yeah.
So I really feel like there's no reason to say I don't believe in the thing you believe in, because I don't say it when you believe in purple monsters. I'm an purple monster-ish, whatever,
Right.
purple monster-ist. But then I saw all the stigma behind it, and I went, wait a minute. People need to know that this isn't a bad word.
Exactly.
It's a prefix, theist. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing more to it. It's that I'm not that, and I really don't think there's more to it. And I think because of that, we need to break down the stigma behind words. It happens with a lot of words, but atheism is one that sticks to me. I mean, it's like, this might sound like really overboard, but you even saw a lot of the black community do it with the N word, trying to take it back and take away the power that it makes us feel little and bold. Be like, nah, I'm this. Like, I'm atheist. This is who the fuck I am. But I know for a lot of people that's not easy. So it's a good point, Liz, that there's probably a transition period between not believing and being willing to speak up and fight back.
Which is funny because it's not like that with everything. I think.
Correct. Yeah.
I think a lot of people, for example, a lot of people who become vegetarian and vegan oftentimes also become animal activists at the same time, because because they're just so outraged. They're like, I gotta get other people to understand,
Well, and that's how I feel with religion, but I just, it's not everybody.
Right.
Ring, that was a good question though. Harris, are you good?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I find it, where I'm in Canada, I actually find it very different than down in the United States. Canadians seem to be more comfortable with speaking about being atheist or non-religious. A lot of people in Canada, that's how they say it, they're non-religious. And like, I grew up in a very strict Baptist household with my grandparents, and stopped going to church at 18. And even though it was such a very religious household, they didn't question my motives around that. I explained to them why I chose to stop going to church. And then it was just never brought up again. And I didn't have to tiptoe around. I didn't have to, yes, they said grace at the dinner table, and out of politeness, I would be quiet while they were saying grace, or before I would eat, because it's their house.
Yeah.
But in Canada, it doesn't seem to be as huge of an issue as in the States.
Maybe that's because they fear that if they question you, you'll just keep apologizing and apologizing and apologizing.
It could be, but my grandpa learned to not question me because he would, like a few times, like he knew I was going to the bar and stuff, and he said in the Bible you're not supposed to get drunk, and I quipped right back at him. I says, no, the Bible says you're not supposed to drink to the point of drunkenness,
Unless you want to bang your dad.
I was
Right?
just gonna make that joke.
Right? So my grandpa learned very quickly that I did know the Bible, and I could throw these arguments right back at him, so he just stopped. He gave up. But yeah, I find it fascinating, the difference between how religion is in the United States versus Canada. I really do.
I'm sure that's a freeing experience. I mean, we long here. I shouldn't say long here. That sounds weird. What I'm trying to say is,
we girth here.
For a long
I made it
time,
more
we have
obvious.
heard that we're the only developed nation that it has such a that has, you know what I'm trying
Well,
to
just
say.
to hold the religious hold on it.
Yes, exactly. Just that's predominantly,
Yeah.
religious. Yeah.
Culturally religious at the very least. Yeah, I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think it's mostly culturally religious, to be honest. But yeah, there's really good points people are bringing up. There's two people coming in. I think I called it in the wrong order, though. God is Buddhist. Did you want to chime in? And then Zagreus will be next.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi.
Loud. I can hear you loud and clear.
Hi, yeah, so I just wanted to highlight one thing. As I've been listening, I've come to the realization and a questioning of whether or not your assumed sense of atheism is a product of your reaction to the religious person, as opposed to it actually being atheism as a reaction to the religion itself. From my studies, I've realized that, there can be a significant difference from the imposed views imposed by religious people and the religion itself. Sometimes you can experience that, this atheism seems to rise up from a religiosity that isn't necessarily sincere. Rather, it's coming from this place of indoctrination rather than to really encourage the mind to discover things like virtue and to understand concepts such as love. So I'm really just trying to get a strong understanding of what you guys' sense of atheism actually rises from.
Yeah, I got you. It's a decent question. Liz, did you want to answer first, or because I'd like to go either one of us. If
Well,
you want
yeah,
to go
it
up.
is very much as a strong reaction to being. I don't want to use the word bullied because that would. I don't know if that's even an accurate term to use in this context, but more like when a religion refuses. So it's definitely a reaction more to the followers because obviously it's the people pushing. It's like my pinned tweet says. We wouldn't have a problem with religion if it remained benign and privately practiced and something that just was something that people used privately to death and loss and things like that.
I.e., a lot of Buddhism.
Right. Like if it was just something that, sure, I can't prove it, but this is what I believe and it helps me cope with life. Okay, fine. But as soon as it becomes something that you insist is a fact and it needs to be used to write legislation that affects the rest of us, and no, you can't have birth control, and no, you can't. As soon as it becomes something that you are treating like it's reality that everyone else should also follow, that's what pushes people like us to finally come out and be like, no, that's bullshit, and we're done being quiet about it. So yeah, I mean, obviously, it's more of a response to the people, and I don't even want to say the extremists necessarily, because I don't think the majority of the country is extremist, but it still ends up taking precedence.
Yeah, no, I'd say that's an absolutely valid sentiment. But given that, I wanted to gain understanding of how sensitive you are to the notion that, this experience of I guess oppression that you've experienced through, quote, religion, how sensitive are you to the idea that this isn't necessarily a reflection of the religion itself, rather it's human beings, thwarting an ideology to achieve certain agendas?
Can I jump in, Liz?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I just want to give my opinion on this. For me personally, because I do have a different view, and I just want to say for me personally, while my atheism being out loud is a rebuttal, I always tell people, like, you wouldn't even know that I didn't believe in God if you didn't believe so loudly in God. Like, I'm just telling you, no, fuck that, it's not true, I don't believe, blah, blah, blah. Like Liz said, you're invading our space.
Hmm.
However, what I will add is the things that you were talking about as far as what some consider either spirituality or the search for deeper meaning, connection to the universe, love. I personally found in my search for religion, like, because I went out, I didn't set out to go, let me prove these things to be incorrect or not true. I went out to see, is there anything in these religions that makes me think there's truth in here that I should be following, that I need to know? Like, and I went one by one through the major religions, whether it was reading, the Old and New Testament or the Quran and Hadith, and or Gitas and Vedas or whatever. Like, I just searched and searched, and everything I found just sounded more and more fairy tale-ish to me. I don't mean every single word and everyone, but the majority of it, as coping mechanisms as things of that nature. So when I say it's that love, that connection that I do think is important. When you say that, it to me, I get a little defensive because I found what I feel those things that you're talking about are through the sciences after I looked into religion, because I went, well, now that I feel it's not true, I need to know why I think that. Like, through the sciences, what in here does not make sense. And through the sciences, I found my connection to the universe. We are stardust, right? Literally forged in the center of stars. I found love. My brother is my brother, not because I want to be nice, because we're literally all related. And I'm not going to be racist because it's just silly to think of somebody different because their ancestors grew up at a different place, near or further from the equator.
Hmm.
And then I decided I'm not going to be homophobic because science tells me that 10% of every animal pretty much is gay. And it's just silly to judge someone for the way they're born or something they can't control. So all of those connections, like the compassion, the love that you're talking about, to me that came through not religion, but through passing through religion, finding it through the sciences. So there is like that meaning that you're looking for. I mean, I'm sorry, the meaning that you're saying, do you feel like you have or have a place for? Yeah, right here. Like for me, my answer is yes, I have it now.
Dale, can I add something to that as well? I wouldn't take. I just wanted to add to that. So first of all, there's 2 points. So obviously, I mean, Liz answered it differently, and my answer is much closer to Dale's answer. I mean, in my case, which now I think, wow, that's
Here,
so.
quick line, Harris. Though that's the great part about atheism. We don't have to have the same views. It just means we don't believe in a god. Everything else is up to us. How we get there, why we got there.
Yeah, but I'm saying that even if it was reactionary, so I just don't understand how would that negate atheism anyway? Like even if it's reactionary, first of all, obviously not every atheist is same. They would have different experiences, but even if it's reactionary, a lot of things, a lot of good movements are reactionary. You could say the abolitionist movement was reactionary to the injustices done to slaves. Feminist movement, everything. So
Yeah,
that's how the civilizations work.
my guess, but I would like Buddhist God, if they can, or are they here? If they can, I would like to know if they think that, like you said, I agree with you with the reactionary part, but to me, it's like I think they were questioning whether or not we say something is. Oh, there's God is Buddhist. I'd like you to comment God is Buddhist from what Harris just said and what I'm adding. I don't know if this is true, but like you had said, and I'm wondering if this is true. Combining it with what Harris said. Are you saying that the reactionary thing because there may be some truth that we're missing and we're denying truth on reactionary emotional thing, or are you saying you know what I'm saying? Like, are you saying that when it's reactionary, are you saying that it might be something that we wouldn't feel if we were just thinking about these things calmly, rationally, not
Mm.
responding?
No, I would instead say that, a large percentage of your quote atheism comes from this intent to really want to think about things rationally. But I also think, a large percentage of it is a byproduct of, false religiosity. I would say it's very much, that kid in the playground that's been sort of picked on. And so they sort of say, fuck you type thing. But my general sentiment is that if that individual wasn't operating in this guise of religion, a lot of atheism wouldn't necessarily be what it is. That's my opinion, I would say.
Well,
Yeah, but again, what's
I'm with
wrong
you.
with that though?
There wouldn't be anti-theism the way there is, but atheism would be more quiet, is what I would think. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yep. And I sometimes forget about that distinction.
Well,
Not
I
all
also.
atheists are anti-theists.
Yeah, no, not even close, and not even close. And I know a lot of people who you would never know are non-believers, and that's the way it should be, but it's not because like I said, like we're a rebuttal. You are correct in that sense. We are pushing back against something. So I don't know. I think it's a mixture, and it's a good question for a lot of people.
Well, especially in the United States. I mean, we live in a country right now that is, I mean, good Lord, how could you not pay attention to what's going on right now and be like, we need to stand up against it. There's Christian supremacists all over the place trying to completely undo what the founding fathers tried to.
Trying to turn us into a Christian-run country, like the countries run under Sharia.
Yeah, pretty much.
So anyway, and I just want to say too, I have a special guest, if anybody knows, who's joined us a few times, Patricia. And Patricia Portillo may lead us, or hopefully will lead us through a breathing exercise to end this thing. If anybody's not familiar, occasionally we end it with a very short breathing exercise, a mindfulness thing, just to kind of like woo-saw ourselves outside of, and I know people see me, fighting, yelling all day long. It's just a nice little way to relax, and that in a little peaceful, relaxing way. Zagros, did you want to go ahead and ask a question or join in?
Yeah, I think we missed part of Harris's question, because he asked not only why isn't there an increase in the dialogue, between the religious and the atheist or non-religious, but also why does there seem to be this increase in like red pill media consumption? Yeah, and Hitchens,
Throw in Ion.
like there was an intergenerational lack of like torch handing. So there is like a base coming, but it's as Godless said, it's coming slow.
Harry, did you want to chime in?
Hello.
Hey,
Do you
Harry,
hear me?
welcome back. Absolutely.
Thank you. Well, let me first say that I'm in London, so I'm already on Friday morning. GodlessLiz, I'm a big fan. I would like to just make one question and one comment. The question is about atheism. Every atheist is, in the end, prepared to agree that if God introduced himself irrefutably, for instance, by regrowing all missing limbs on handicapped people, he would become fact. So there's no big difference, really, is my view, between atheism and agnostic atheism. The other one is I want to comment on what was just said. One of the reasons the debate on sort of the woke part, let's put it that way, exceeds the debate on religion is famous people don't discuss religion. I had an interaction with Ellen Barkin not so long ago when she was asking when is the expiration date for white cis males. And I said in a tweet to her, she got so many likes that doesn't that take away diversity? And why not go for expiration of all white males and women will soon follow? The day after she apologized. But I think those are the 2 points. Thank you.
But by the way, I don't know who said woo when you said Ellen Barkin's name, but I did too internally.
Yeah, me. I did too. Yeah, that's really interesting. Thanks, Harry, by the way. And I know who you are, and I feel terrible that I didn't get back to you, by the way, because I did watch your video and loved it, and just got busy, and life. Sorry. Please forgive me, but I did like your video, and I love what you're doing. But back to what you said though about no real difference between agnostic atheist and just atheist, and you're pretty much right. I think even if you say agnostic atheist, so if I say, yeah, I know there are no gods, right? Which I actually do a lot. that doesn't mean I'm not open to being proven wrong. It just means right now, based on the vast majority of evidence and data that we have, I think it's completely reasonable to conclude there are no gods. And I don't think there's anything wrong with stating that. But if somebody would love to...
She's a 6.99 on the Dawkinsian scale.
Yeah. And if anybody would love to prove me wrong, or if any of the gods humans have invented so far would like to prove me wrong, wonderful, prove me wrong. Then I'll go, I was wrong.
That's one of the good things. That's one of the good things about your belief or belief system or lack thereof not being attached to a doctrine that cannot change. If we realize that we were wrong about something, even being God, then we can go, whoop, we were wrong. But if somebody who belongs to a religion has to say they were wrong, their entire worldview crumbles.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Nuria, did you want to jump in? You had your hand up, but it's not now.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dale. Hi, Liz. Hey, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. I'm sorry I kind of missed the beginning of the conversation, but it's always great to hear a deconversion story, especially one that you have kept in for over like 20 years. So I guess that would be my question is, the people here that have kept their atheism, quote unquote, to themselves for so long, how did you do it? Because when the rug was pulled from under my feet, like, yeah, you kind of live that double life, you act. I think April mentioned I was living with my grandparents as well. You have to play the part, but like deep inside, you're like dying, if that makes sense. So that would be my question. But then I just kind of wanted to comment on what God as a Buddhist was saying as well, on the point of atheism and where does it come from. I think what Liz was saying, what Dale was saying, what Horace was saying, kind of all of that in summation, it's again like, when none of us atheists aren't a monolith, agnostic atheists or whatever. I think a large part of it can be reactionary, especially coming from a place where you've been directly impacted by the religion, whether it's like practices enforced on you or, traditions enforced on you or insane religious laws put on you. That can all initiate a reactionary response, which is very natural and humane. But then the overarching thing is it comes down, especially for like why I do what I do, is because the very fundamentals of the religion were against everything you were saying in terms of like love and like all of that kind of good stuff.
Yes.
Islam has nothing like that in it. In fact, it's like one of the worst cancers to ever plague the earth. So a lot of like even the reactionary stuff you can deal with, you can kind of deal with your own religious PTSD or whatever. You can work through it. You can find little communities online, but to actively go out and say, no, there's a problem with this thing and I need to speak about it. Yeah, sorry, Godless, do you want to say something?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you chiming in there. And I'm in no way trying to invalidate your experience of Islam, but given what I've learned about Islam and my study of the Quran, even though there are these, really negative entities appearing in the guise of Islam, I would say there is still that strong aspect of Islam that is very much in favor of thinking of your fellow man, honoring your mother, your parents, these virtues that go across the board, regardless of what kind of ideology you cling to.
Well, but you do have to kill someone if they don't believe it.
Adam?
Yeah, and I get that, and I'm so sorry, Dale and Liz, I don't want to derail this conversation to be about Islam, but I would say that these tiny parts, like, they do not outweigh the negatives that Islam brings with it. Like, you should respect your parents anyway, but I mean the shit show that Islam brings with it in terms of like, I mean, it gets very dark. So to hang on to these little things is just not worth it. But also another thing I wanted to mention real quick is I think sometimes the conversation between agnosticism and atheism gets conflated a lot. For me, when I was kind of struggling with this whole thing that Dale mentioned about where do you fit on the Dawkins spectrum, and again, you come out of a religion, the last thing you want to do is be boxed in and be labeled. But for me, the most beautiful explanation to date that I've come across is Ricky Gervais, and he basically breaks it down and says that the Gnostic part of it is to have knowledge, and like none of us can actually know if there is a God or not. So technically, all of us atheists are agnostic at some level. Do I believe there is a God based on, as Liz was saying, all the evidence before me? No, I definitely don't. But if the evidence was to change, I'd be willing to change, but then that would change even the agnostic side of things. So I think there's a
And
very
then you'd
big
know.
distinction.
Right, but just to add that, I would
Yeah.
say that would absolutely depend on how you define God. If you define God as some exterior entity sitting on the cloud, of course, that's going to lean more towards a human being not being able to know that. But if you define God as, something intrinsic to the experience of love, one could argue quite differently, I would say.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but God is, but is
I want
anything
to jump in.
unfalsifiable? Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm sorry. I want to jump in, Nuria. Just a quick thing. Like, I understand what you're saying because people do define God in many, many different ways, and to some, it's pure energy or pure love. I spoke to somebody the other day who said, "I think of God as carbon because, like, that's what we're based off of, and it's the core of us." Da, da, da. I'm with you, but carbon has a name. That's a molecule, right?
Well,
And wait, hold on, and give me 1 second, Liz. And love is a concept that happens neurologically in your brain. That's a bunch of jelly and neurons shooting around electricity.
Well, but brother, love is also a choice. Love is also a
No, it's
decision
not.
to act. And so,
No, it's not. Yeah.
but is it not a choice to embrace this dialogue that we're experiencing now? Can't you see that this dialogue that is happening now is coming from this place of,
Yeah, but
companionship
it's a
to
Well,
dialogue.
of
reason?
It's
course it
not
does, but it
right.
has nothing to do with a metaphysical being. There's no God. It's just our neurology. It's just biology. It's just our physical us. Like to me, we don't need to have anything else. I'm okay with people having the spiritual stuff that you're talking about, but it's not net. When I said I get that through science, I know it's not necessary to have like. I mean, I'm not going to like sit here and poke my chest out and go, "You don't know how hard I love," but yes, I am. You don't know how hard I love. And you don't know how much I care about the people in my lives and how much connection I feel and the love. Right now in these spaces, I feel that love and connection to my friends.
Right.
But none of it has anything to do with a God or a connective force that I can't name or feel. It's just like it's my neurons feel their neurons and our pathways are similar and we feel each other. And I don't think there has to be anything above and beyond the natural to appreciate that on the same level. That's all. I'm not saying you
Well,
can't be. I'm just saying it's not necessary. Why
well, I
should
know,
you?
but that's given the assumption that, the natural is something that isn't in and of itself, something divine. So,
By definition, the natural is not divine. So you can feel differently. I just can't. We can't go further with this. By definition, if you look those up, the divine is not natural. By definition, it's metaphysical. It's another thing. The word divine itself.
well,
So I know
and
we try to conflate words a lot because sometimes it's hard to have a word to describe something. But to me, when I don't have a word to describe something, it's like love, and you go, well, maybe that is like this deeper connection on some. Sometimes I go, I don't have a word for that. But like I wouldn't call it God because most people who refer to the word God are referring to a metaphysical being, or at least at the very least, something that created the universe, which love
well,
didn't do. Love wasn't here for a long time after the universe was created.
and there's a reason why everyone defines God differently, because that's what happens with fiction, with something that literally exists only in our imaginations. Everyone can define it in their own way, and nobody can be wrong because nobody can prove any of them are real.
Yeah, if they could, we would all quote unquote believe, but instead of believe, we would say that we know. I want to jump off that because I do. By the way, God is Buddhist. I really do appreciate the questions and the challenging because I mean I just wanted to like make it clear that I know that none of your questions were disrespectful in any way. It was just kind of saying how do you guys see this. So I appreciate that. So I am now going to invite
Somebody's requesting. Stargazer is requesting.
Stargazer if you'd like to ask a quick question, and then we'll hop to Patricia.
Thanks. I'm not familiar with Liz's work, but I'm glad that I found this avenue, so I would be able to follow her work. It seems like something that I'd been missing. So my question is about the immense privilege and majoritarianism that religion holds. And even though in our individual capacities, we may be able to fulfill or live the lives that we want, but about our rights as they pertain to, like, when you have kids, like making choices for them, I always feel like the religious point of view always comes in as the default or as the privilege. And even believers who profess to be sort of not extremists and accepting, their acceptance goes to the point of, oh, we'll let you live your life, but this is how society works. This is churches and mosques are everywhere. So the default is that kids are going to learn about God. So what about my preference of how I want to raise my kids where I'm alone and the grandparents on both sides and most of the family and most of the society that you live in ascribes to a religion. So I think that's another big issue that I see is that the position of atheism should be at the same moral level as being religious. It's not something that you tolerate, it's an equally valid worldview. And if a parent is religious and one parent is an atheist, then the religious parent shouldn't have any moral high ground as to, oh, I'll let you do whatever you do, but the kids will be raised in a religion because that's the right thing to do. And that right thing to do attitude among the religious people, I think that needs to end and they need a reality check. So I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that aspect.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I will let Liz respond, and then we'll close things. But I just, the whole like we're on equal ground. The easiest way you can say that is the whole, freedom of religion. Freedom of religion has to include freedom from religion. If it does not, and that's what you're saying, freedom of religion like they have, then the people who don't believe have to have freedom from religion. And that puts us all on equal ground. Unfortunately, a lot of people in a lot of countries and a lot of places have taken freedom of religion to mean I get my religion. You don't have equal ground, like you're saying.
Right. Like they for some reason believe that means they have the freedom to oppress others with their religion. And that's not the deal. But back to the thing about parenting and so forth, that's the insidious thing about a lot of religious beliefs is, of course, the religious parent is going to feel it's necessary to raise their children in their religion, because if you fear that the result is they'll be thrown in hell if they aren't, that's the insidious thing about these beliefs. Of course, they're going to believe that the good thing and the right thing to do is they've got to save their children's souls, right? And
you got to keep them out of the furnace.
Right. So of course, and that's why religious cults are it's why they've been able to successfully grow for centuries and centuries, because it's like they're giving birth to their new followers. And
you labeled it a cancer earlier, and that's a good way to say it when we talk about it growing, evolving, propagating. It's like a cancer.
Right. Although I don't know if I'm the one who said cancer.
Oh, somebody did. I'm sorry. Yeah. Somebody did. Yeah.
But
My bad. Yeah. Didn't want to attribute that to you.
Just to add, I would say fear of hell is definitely a real component, but I would say it's not the only one. A lot of religious inspiration generally just comes from the desire to
believe in the afterlife. There are a lot of fake things, yeah.
No, but not even just the fictitious sounding things. More so coming from a place of virtue.
Right.
Yeah, but the problem is, and I don't want to go down this route because I really do want to get Patricia in and end things, because we could do this and we can get deep. And by the way, you're more than welcome to come on my spaces. I'm running one shortly after this, and we can talk about this stuff. But I do have to end this space. Right. So Patricia, if we're okay doing that now, I want to give you a quick intro, and just for anybody who doesn't know, Patricia is one of the few humans who has been able to help me center myself slightly. And with that said, I will be advertising for her in a minute on our conversation. She is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong when you get in, but trained opera singer, and in her spare time likes to help us with what she's going to give you an example of, and does it on her timeline Twitter Spaces on a pretty regular basis, unless she's working. Does a little woo-saw. So we're gonna get a little example of that now, and then after that, I'll say goodbye, and that's it. Patricia, you're on.
Hi, friends. Good evening. Always so great to be present in this space and to listen to such intelligent conversation about this great thing that we have, which is, connection through just thought, right? We are all connected through energy and thought. And I'm always so happy to be here, even though I am a believer. That you welcome me into this space is always so humbling and wonderful. So thank you for letting me be here and to share a little bit of what I do with you. I'm going to do a little differently, a little exercises, a few different exercises than we've done before. So I invite you to just think about where in your body you feel the breath right now. We're going to take a few short breaths in, just like 5 really quick breaths in and out through our nose. So I invite you to do that now. So breathe in, out, in, out, in, out, and out, in, out, in, out, in, out. Where did you feel that? You should have felt a short, shallow breath. So kind of in your shoulders, not very deep, not too profound, just in, out, and it was right up high, right? That's normally what happens when we are feeling stressed, when we are feeling like we are threatened. Our short breath takes over, and we feel like our heartbeat can get faster. So when you get into that state, when you're starting to take shorter breaths and you're starting to feel that anxiety build, I want you to remember that you have the capability to slow your own breath down. Right? You can take a slower breath. So let's take a normal breath in through your nose, and breathe out through your mouth, letting all of your air go. Pull your abs in as you're breathing out. And then as soon as you can't breathe out anymore, just release and see where you feel the breath is going to. Usually it's your low abdomen. Let's try it again. Breathe out all of your air. Let all of your air go. Pull your abs in until you can't breathe out anymore. And then just release and breathe in. Right? So you know that you can focus your air into your low abdomen area. You can focus your air into the top portion of your shoulders and the top part of your lungs. And you can also fill up slowly with air. So I want you to think about breathing into 6 different areas now. We're going to try to breathe into our low back, mid back, low sides, mid sides, low front, and mid front. And to get to the low back can be a little tricky. So I invite you to bend at the waist, either seated or standing, whichever is more comfortable for you. Place your hands on your low. Now take a slow breath in through your nose. Really see if you can fill up with air and feel your low back expanding with breath. And breathe out, relaxing your ribs, allowing everything to just really relax. Good. Another tricky spot is that mid-back, so stay bent at the waist and move your hands up to your mid-back. This might be a little tricky if you have shoulder inflexibility. Try to get your hands flat on your back. Do the best you can. Breathe in through your nose. Good. Breathe out. Really relax the breath. Sometimes we hold our rib cage out. Just really relax your ribs. Very nice. I invite you to come back to a neutral sitting or standing position. We're going to take a slow breath in through our nose and fill up with areas low back, low sides, mid sides, low front, mid front. Think of your whole torso as one big balloon filling from the bottom to the top. Breathe in through your nose. Good. Breathe out. As you're breathing out, gently pull your abs in. Your abs are really the control center, your powerhouse. You are in control of your breath, and your abs help to control the amount of air that you let go as you exhale. Very nice, friends. I'm going to have you do one last exercise with me. It's my very favorite, and I close out my space every day with it. I'm going to have you breathe in again, and then I'm going to have you pretend like there's a window or a mirror or a glass door of some kind in front of you. We're going to fog up the window with our breath. Breathe in through your nose. Good. Drop your jaw, fog up the window. Let all of that air go and draw something silly in the fog that you just created. And as you are drawing that silly thing, I want you to remember that you are loved exactly as you are right now in this moment, even if it doesn't feel like it. And that you are worthy of love and all good things, that you don't have to change a thing about yourself to be worthy of that love.
But I wanted to say a quick thank you very much, Patricia, for ending it on that note. Thank you, GodlessLiz, for being a superb guest and also a superb friend. And thank you, everybody else, for joining us in our little secular woo-saw. I really do appreciate it. And just a quick thing I want to end with. If you can go to our OK Atheist page, if you'd like to join our Discord, we're open there and we're, going there doing things there on a regular basis now. So again, thank you very much. I appreciate everything, your support, your love, and most of all, like I said, and we've said many times, the community. So just thank you for being here. Thank you for the love, and take care, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Dale, and happy holidays, everyone.